Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Merode. And welcome to our conference, which is called How Can Conscious Leadership Help Our Democracy? My name is Julian. I'm part of the programming team here. And today we're honored to welcome Martine Dornier Tiefenthaler, who had a career of more than 25 years as a leader in the aerospace industry and has been championing democratic values all around Europe. Welcome. Who comes from a very rich rabbinical lineage and has been instrumental in setting up over 70 charitable organizations and is focusing mostly on pioneering initiatives that foster unity and collective consciousness. Welcome. And then Laurent Ledoux, who is our moderator for tonight. He is also the manager of Philosophy and Management Association, and he is the organizer of this. Laurent Ledoux had a very rich career as president of the executive committee of the Federal Minister of Mobility. Also head of public banking at BNP Paribas, and much more, really rich journey. So as many of you will know, our mission here is at the Merode is to create a community that's really dedicated to personal and professional development, and also to social, really a platform where our members and thought leaders from very different industries and sectors come together to inspire positive change and positive growth. So in this event, which I think is a very important topic, it gives us the opportunity to explore what's needed to create a future where leadership is grounded in awareness, in compassion, and in collective well-being. Also for our presence here tonight, your presence makes this community possible and it nourishes our community. And without further ado, I will pass the floor to our invitees. A warm welcome. Pass the floor to our invitees. A warm welcome.
Thank you, Julien. Thank you for this. We'll start right away. I'm very pleased to be with you. We'll discuss leadership, awareness of consciousness, and democratic values. And the first question I will ask to my host is to basically respond to the question of leadership and what are the challenges of leadership today. Basically, for both of you, I will quote Ronald Heifetz. Ronald Heifetz is the leading professor of leadership at Harvard University, and he defines leadership like this. Leadership is a capacity to mobilize a group to face its own challenges. So, just to give you an example, he will say that Trump would not qualify as a leader because basically Trump does not help his people to mobilize for the real challenges. On the contrary, Trump will, let's say, try to negate the real challenges and basically tell the people, trust me, I will solve the problems for you. And by doing this, it does not mobilize the people to act. So my question for you, Martine, and for you, Moses, is basically, what are currently for you the big challenges that are required in our society and which requires leadership?
Is this a press button? No, nobody explained to me. That's a big question to start with. And to give a summarized answer is almost impossible, because I think leadership is one thing, but the other thing is nowadays we have such a sophisticated world where knowledge of things is very important. And for me, leadership, if we talk about democracy, we should maybe have a little difference between democracy and companies or leadership in other fields. But if we talk about democracy, it's so easy to get through with headlines when you try to lead. But I think to understand and really have knowledge is something which, for me, is very important. And I miss the knowledge, the quality of knowing things. We can discuss what do you have to know. But the job description of politicians who have influence on all of us, on the society, is the first step. What do we expect to get if we don't define what they should do for us? Then they end up in doing everything or nothing. And then we end up in, as we can see now, in disasters, because those who are clever enough set themselves on top of a movement, and suddenly we have a problem because they turn against us. And I think the system we have right now does not really protect us against this.
So for you, the big challenge today would be the democracy, how it works, and the capacity of the political leaders to address those issues related to democracy?
Yes, and I think the view on democracy, what does that mean? We should start there. If you think about that, you have voters and the majority decides where you go to. For me, it's a decision about qualified people. What can they do? What do they know? What do I expect from them? And if I go into the trap that they talk about everything, and I don't ask what kind of values do they represent. Like, I think if I have to make a decision about, in the human resources, about people who work for me, I talk a lot with them. And for me, it is not only important that somebody knows how to be a good lawyer or how to, create a good airplane, but it's also important how does he fit into the team. And all these kind of factors, voters don't ask, or if they ask them, I don't think that they get transparent answers. So the Bewusstsein, the conscious, here we go, the consciousness of whom do I want and what do I want to ask? I am the one who gives the job. So what am I asking for is so low. You see it with the advertising for politicians. It's enough that you have their photo on the streets and there is one headline and then you should vote for them. I mean, if somebody would apply for a job in one of our companies with this, I would say, okay, nice meeting you, but sorry.
Thank you. It's very clear. We'll come back to this. Moses, what would you answer? What are the big challenges that require leadership today?
First of all, that I agree with Martine.
Thank you.
That's a good start.
I experience life from being aware that I can either be the ego me. So the ego me is the reptilian brain that is in survival mode, and because of fear it will react, or being the conscious I, presence, awareness, love. For thousands of years, for most of history that we as humans know, we've seen leaders as monarchs, as dictators, as typical ego me beings who ruled with fear, and most people got used to being led by fear. And typically an ego me sees life in duality, separation. So even though I feel that we've been living the most amazing time in history through democracy is definitely an evolution compared to all the other systems, political systems we've known before. Still in politics today, in democratic politics, the policymaker or the political person is still creating a separation, is still telling people, follow me against them. There's an us as our party against their party. There's us, our country against their country. Us as Europeans against another continent. So the biggest challenge that I see is still this perception of reality as a separation. Me versus you, us versus them.
Martine, when you say we don't know exactly what are the values of the political leaders and they should be clearer about it, or we should have ways to select them upon clear values, do you relate to what Moses just said, or could you elaborate on what you would want to know from the leaders, or what you want them to be trained at in order to meet your criteria?
I think, first of all, we have to reorganize a little bit our democratic system simply by law. Because I'm a lawyer, I start thinking very practical, and there are some tools which are not used because it will not come out of the system. As a company will not change itself, the voters have to ask for that. And we have a tool now which is called Internet to organize ourselves, but we are not yet used to that. In terms of values, I would start with, if somebody would ask me, would you like to become Bundeskanzlerin? My answer would be, sorry, I think this job is too big for anybody in the world, because what do you expect me to do? You expect me to make a decision about people having to go to war or not going to war. How can anybody in the world decide this? So our expectation is so big, and then you have to fight against jobless, and then you have to fight against migrants, immigrants, name it. So the job is so big that I would expect somebody to be humble enough to see that. That's the first step. And not do as if they would know everything. You ask them, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, you ask her on the third day of her job, and she says, oh yeah, we are in war against Russia. What about if you say, listen, that's a new situation. I would see that as a part of a character which has the ability to lead, to see that this job is too big and tell the people the truth and be transparent. But at the same time, lead. You have enough resources, take your time, think about it, and give the people the feeling. So it's complicated, and you need the best to do it. You need really the best of us all. If you look at the United States, do they have the best of what a country has to offer nowadays? I guess they are not bad, and I don't want to mention their age because I shouldn't throw the stone in the glass house I'm sitting in, but there's a country with so many talents. So again, I'm coming to the process. If we fail to find the right people in time, we have a wrong understanding of what democracy has to deliver. And then we have to go into the basics. I don't know, how the system is here in Belgium, but in Germany, how do we finance the parties? Who can apply? How do we bring transparency in their CV and things like this? For example, in Germany, those you are voting for, they are not obliged to tell you more than their name, the address, of course their gender, which is nowadays also an issue, which is okay. But then if you ask, where did you work? How long did you work? Can we see your certification or anything like this? They are not obliged to give it to you. But we employ them kind of, and we put our life into their hands. So combination of both, an emotional part which has to be trained and educated.
Okay, so humility and training in the emotional part, etc. What would you say to this, Moses? Do you have proposals to make on how to train leaders?
Absolutely. So we're speaking about consciousness and conscious leadership. So we know leadership, and as I was describing it, is typically a leadership that is me. I know what to do, follow me. From a conscious leadership would be, as you started with, humility, recognizing all the talent, all the skills, everything there is, and today we know it as collective intelligence. if you're able to bring people together, and rather than putting them one against each other, so then everybody has to protect me out of survival reasons, but rather let everyone be able to truly be themselves, so empower human beings, the leader only needs to facilitate what is available through all the people that are present. So this is how I describe conscious leadership. So not operating from an ego me, from a conscious I, presence. In presence, I can see the value of the people around, and together we're way more powerful than all of the people just turning into followers of me.
This would require what exactly to help those people to move from the me leadership to a more open, conscious leadership. How does this happen? Can you give hints at what you would do in order to promote this?
Yeah. So I have a religious background, but the way I operate today is not religious. I'm grateful to the great religions because they were schools that were able to pass on, they were guardians passing on messages to us today. What I believe, if you go deep in any religion, in any spiritual path, it's not so much what divides people, which religions are very good at, but rather the spiritual journey that every individual can experience. And before we start talking about politicians, if each one of us is able to take simply a moment of silence, a nice intentional deep breath, so rather than allowing what she or he just said and put me in a reactor mode and then it's me versus them, but rather being present, conscious I, from this state, we are creators. We act rather than react. And I believe this is possible for everyone. It's something that everyone can be trained into. It's not that complicated. The more we create safe environments, which are conducive to humans being present, the more we can hope that politicians, who are the ones that want to please the people, they need the vote, they will want to be conscious leaders.
So Martine, I know you've known Moses for quite a long time already. You are, in your field, definitely a leader. So what have you learned from him that helped you to grow more conscious?
It is a complicated question.
You didn't expect that one, huh?
No.
No.
In terms of, I think there is a very, I'm a practical person, I'm not this. So, take a deep breath.
We don't know what this means, but
This
we can
means-
imagine.
Yeah.
This is what I learned from Martine.
Just when you recognize that anger is coming up, then Moshe comes into my mind, and I think, okay, I take a deep breath, and then I try to concentrate on what is the real goal. So if I think about that, I would, negotiate political issues. And of course, a very good example is you have to negotiate with Putin, who has a clear, mindset which doesn't match with mine at all. So how do you bring him to a result you want to have? That needs a lot of training. That's, and part of it, from my perfect world, would be that we train the people whom we expect to go into situations like this, not to come into this job by coincidence because they have this nice picture on the street or because they can talk nice, but because they also have to do a training to be aware in such situations, to know we train people to negotiate. When you are in a law company, you train people how to negotiate. So why would I take the coincidence of democracy in choosing people and then not asking them for doing some training? I'm not saying that we choose people out of the full spectrum of society, But I say once we did that, they have to go through a training. In Germany, for example, if you want to apply for a visa, you have to go through a testing. And if you look at the test, it's not easy. They ask for quite a lot of questions about constitution and how do things work. Our politicians, they don't have to, but I'm sure a lot of them would fail. And if you see now the development of parties who suddenly become very big, like our AfD, you know, they have a problem in getting the right people in, so they take almost everybody. They don't ask who they are. People vote in a big number, but then you have to bring the people in, and nobody tests them. And then we have the disaster. One is a spy for China. 11 of them are convicted for physical, crimes. And you wouldn't employ people like this. Can we do that? I'm convinced we can do that if people sit together, intelligent people who have the knowledge. We can improve our laws without risking the basic thought of democracy that everybody is represented or has a chance to be represented. And the goal has to be, how do we protect us as a society from misuse? And if you look, about Poland, nobody talks right now because we need them against, Russia. But Viktor Orban, we talk about him. The career of Erdogan, we know how it worked. They need a while. Trump, they stopped after 4 years. If we give them another time, he will be able to influence the policy, the police, the military,
foreign relations.
No. Jurisdiction.
Yes.
It needs a while, but they get there, because the voters are gone. They disappeared, and that is what I mean. I hope in the future, so in your generation, artificial intelligence will take over in a lot of fields, so that you don't have emotions there, that you don't have, ideology there. Who needs ideology when it comes to garbage, to electricity? We need energy, and we need somebody who does it without ideology, and then we wouldn't have, I guess, so much conflict situations. And then what is the core of what we need to live together? And then it comes to values. And I would prefer to have educated people also when it comes to value. And that is not, I need an academic. We know all that you find people with a huge heart, and they are in what they are trained on. They have a very simple job, but they understand immediately. And then you have these academics. So it's not about this, and they have no values at all, It's more about, we defined where we want them to be.
Right, but when I listen to you, Martine, it seems like you are a friend of Plato. Plato was basically saying we should train philosophers to become kings. I make it short, but this is basically what he proposed. Today, we are definitely, if somebody would propose this, he would say, well, this is not democratic. But on the contrary, what you propose is precisely this, to train people to be qualified, responsible politicians, right? Are you aware of this? And what do you see as the biggest obstacle to propose this? Because you say, okay, let's organize in order to make those selection and election of leaders the way you propose. How can we achieve this?
I think the biggest obstacle, I discuss it with people and they say, oh no, our constitution, and that jeopardizes the whole idea of democracy.
Exactly.
Because you create elites,
Exactly.
and things like this. I discussed it up and down. So I think we have to go step by step. We can't have it all from one day to another. So my perspective of the first step is just let's ask parties to deliver, whenever they suggest somebody that we should vote for, they should give us a proper CV. They should give us his, certificates, for whom did they work. Just give some transparency. Who are those people? And they are responsible to check whether this is the truth or not. And it's not that it's a minor thing that people just cheat on it. They say, oh, I was in this and this company, and if you check it, they did a Dingsterbumster, students, 3 months, whatever, and then it's in their CV, like they know what they are doing. So it's not a minor thing. Transparency. Everybody of us who applies for a job has to do that. Why not ask politicians?
Okay.
First step.
That's first step.
This creates already awareness on the side of voters that we have a responsibility for this decision for human resources. And then the next step is that we have to think about what do we expect. We are obliged to write down a job description. What do we expect from them? And like this you can start step by step to change the thinking of every 4 years, or I don't know how often you vote here in Belgium. You vote and then, it's done and you look at it and you're desperate. So next step is, how do we fire them if they don't perform? The process to fire them is really long. And sometimes it's too late.
Yes.
It's too late. You can't fire them anymore because they have the weapons which we gave them and they use them against us. There must be a way. We can install a couple of people who then decide after a very precise prescription when to fire somebody. If they start to influence media, it's a reason to fire them. No matter whether they had intention or not, when they do it, shut down like Orban. The first newspaper, we stop it. We have new elections, we stop it. It's important to stop them. So there are possibilities. Just have to do it.
Thank you. So you see, it's very practical. I'm going back to Moses. What I like is you converge on the goals. You have very practical steps. You have maybe less in appearance practical steps, but how would you go about it? Suppose you could indeed help some politicians to move into a more conscious leadership. How would you approach this?
First of all, I would elect someone practical. I believe it all starts with the mindset. So for many of us as humans, I'm speaking about, are still operating as if we just came out of the jungle, or we're still in the jungle. So still operate with the law of the fittest. So whoever is stronger wins. I see it as a very simple image. When I enter a corporation or a political space, I feel I just walked in to a Shark Tank. It's a space where everybody is ready to attack the other and everybody's defending themselves. So when you're in a Shark Tank, inevitably, people are sharky. What I like is the image of a dolphin's pool. I like to walk into a place where I see smiley people and I know I can turn around and no one will stab me, right? It's not the jungle. We went through quite a bit of an evolution. So now I want to be clear. When you go into a Shark Tank, it doesn't mean that the individuals that are there are all sharks. No human being is either a shark or a dolphin. Every human being has sharkism and dolphinism. Every single one of us has a reptilian brain. There's a reactor in case we feel triggered. And every single one of us, when we feel safe, is able to love, is able to flow. When I go into an environment which is clearly considered a Shark Tank, I start identifying all kinds of people who play very competitive and they're very strong, and I look at them and I go, you're a little dolphin, what are you talking about? What are you trying to even pretend to be this big sharky guy when you're not even good at it? Okay? And these people melt because, they were taught that the only way to make it in a corporation, in a competitive space, in politics, is by being sharky. The same is valid, I want to be very clear. You walk into a dolphin's in pool, so, you know, a yoga space or meditation or mindfulness or breathing or whatever it is, those nice, beautiful tanks. And sometimes there's someone there a little sharky, right? They're pretending somehow to be the dolphin, but there's still a sharkism. So I really invite individuals, because I don't see politicians as something separate, they're all human beings, to realize that it's up to us to have the state of mind or state of being to choose which environment I want to go into, because we create the environments. We are the ones that either support a shark tank or we can be part of co-creating a dolphin's pool. Now, I have nothing against sharks, it's just an image. I just believe very much that the more humans have a conducive environment and they meet people where it's in to be nice, to be kind to each other, to take care of each other. Here, I'm here for you today, you're here for me tomorrow. People will be happier to be evolved conscious beings rather than that me versus you or us versus them, that all kinds of identities, families, parties, nationalities have created.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I guess after all you've said, you might have questions for Moses and for Martine. So I would say the floor is yours. Really shoot and let's see. Don't shoot. No, shoot.
No, don't shoot.
No, because you're not sharks, right? So Julien, you have the mic. Who wants to raise the first question? Yes. To raise the first question. Yes.
Okay, I try to formulate my question. Thanks for coming to the Merode. Like I tried politics. I wanted to go into politics, but they didn't want me. So it's very difficult to become.
Did you give your CV?
Yeah. An honest CV. So maybe that was a problem. But nowadays, I think this might sound strange, but you reason from like the people choose the leaders. But nowadays, I think, this is going to sound strange, but like it comes from above, you know. Like it used to be like God chose King David, you know. So if tomorrow God says, okay, Queen Elizabeth instead of King Philip, you know, it will happen. I believe more that, and ministers used to be servants of God. What do you think about that point of view?
Well, if you speak about God, I'll leave it to Martine.
You think your knowledge is too high, so I can do it more for my stomach. I think you touched a point which is another very precise thing we could do. I think now what is the English word? Filth. You know, the filthy network.
Filthy.
In the
dirty,
parties,
dirty.
which you may vote in the right way, but then who takes the leadership, who becomes minister, is in such a filthy, strange, you know, where the democracy doesn't count anymore. At least in Germany, it's like this, you know, who is supposed to become minister, who is supposed to become, you know, in the ministries. It's a very intransparent and incredible, expensive system for taxpayers, because they hire someone, they fire someone, but we pay until the end of their life because they had been in public. So there is a point where a better organization could protect us, a more transparent and a more clear organization. And we can do that. You just have to sit down. But it will, and discuss it with people who understand that. It will never ever come out of the system itself. That's for sure. Because once you're in, you have financial interest, and I think a lot of people do also have a real political interest. They want to do something for society. But to jeopardize the system, they will not do that.
I'd like to continue on your question and raise it to Moses. It seems to me that today we have a few big countries which are dreaming of becoming again empires and which use more and more religion to support their way of looking at the world. I can name them very briefly. Russia, with Patriarch Kirill blessing the soldiers going to war. We've got India more and more, raising Hinduism in order to get the Muslims out. China, who had kicked out religion but bringing back now Confucius, etc., in order to support their policies. Erdogan in Turkey, same thing. He was not religious. He has become with years because it helped him. So, and the last one, Iran, of course. So, what do you think of this? You, Moses, you said you...
Can I just
Yes.
and
Yes,
then
go.
you fire me from here because
No.
I think I just there's for me a big sin in how we use the language, and you just did it.
Oh, sorry.
You said the Russians, the Chinese. It's not about nations. It's we created national borders, and I think we shouldn't go in the trap that we say the Russians. I'm sure there are a lot of Russians who are terribly suffering under what happens right now. All the families who lost over 300,000 young people died already. So it's not the Russians. We should name those people. We shouldn't talk about,
Okay. Putin,
we
Xi Jinping, yes.
we have to take the time to name them, because otherwise we take part against somebody. That's what Moshe said. If you say the Russians, the Chinese, so I'm the Austrian, you are the Belgium. No, we have a human society. And by organization, they implemented over hundreds of years these national borders, and we still define our leaders in these national borders. That's the first mistake. The world of economy doesn't do that. I don't define my markets in Germany. I would sell one aircraft, and that's it. So, they cross borders. We should stop talking like this. Sorry, Laurent.
No, you just fired me. Thank you. But so, Moses, what would you say about this evolution, where religions come back as an instrument of power by some politician?
So you're touching on a subject that is very vast, and in a few minutes, it really doesn't justify it. So I do invite anyone here for a longer conversation to get together. I like to speak about the me and the I, the ego me and the conscious I. As you can see, I'm very consistent with everything that I say. I just keep on coming back to it.
Whatever the question, me and I.
Me and I, that's the answer. Why am I saying this? For too long, God has been an instrument of people that wanted to control other people. And in the name of God, so whoever felt powerful enough to speak on behalf of God, they were able to control other people. Typically, me's. So the me's were the monarchs. Always. The monarchs always wanted to control other people by fear, and they figured out, let me take that prophet. The prophet had no intention in controlling people, possessing anything. A prophet is a present conscious being. But they figured out how to use the message of the prophet and turn it for their controlling or possession or domination purposes. Okay? So this is an old story that the me's tried to use the I. Now what I want to encourage everyone to realize is, what is your perception? What is your experience with God? God is not something outside. It's not him. If it's already, it's a her. But anyway, It's not him. God is an experience. When the human is able not to react, not to be anxious, not to be angry, not to need to possess out of fear, but is able to relax this part of the brain. Today, scientifically, it's all proven. Psychologically, we all know how this works. And then I am able to be present. I start experiencing what we call transcendence. Something beyond just me, my family, my people, my. Once I transcend, I'm experiencing something which is. I am part of something that is beyond just me. So this is what enlightened people, human beings that experience this lightness, and in English it's nice because in French it doesn't work this way. Light is the opposite of darkness and the opposite of heaviness. You know, as long as you're in the me, when you're stressed, there's a heaviness, there's a darkness you're experiencing. Anyone that is able to let go of this heaviness and this darkness is, well, in the past they would call it divine. You know why divine? Because at some point, I'm Italian, so in Italian it makes more sense. Divino. Divino is when they had some vino, they experienced it, right? That's when they got divine, right? Today we know you don't need necessarily a substance that comes from outside. Take a nice intentional deep breath. Be in silence, and you can experience this. You want to call it God, you want to call it divine, you want to call it spiritual, you want to call it the spirit, that doesn't matter. That's why I like to call it the conscious I, so no one can come on behalf of the conscious I and dominate others. If you're trying to dominate others, it's obviously in the name of the me, not in the conscious I. No conscious I wants to dominate or possess others.
Thank you. Another question. Yes.
Hello. Can I ask in French because my
Yes,
English
we'll translate.
is very bad. Comment savoir quand on est requin ou quand on est dauphin et comment devenir le dauphin quand on est requin ou alors équilibrer, trouver son équilibre sans pour autant écraser les autres.
Martine, did you get the question?
How to recognize if I'm a shark or a dolphin, and how when I choose to be a dolphin. No, please.
No way. No way.
So the first thing is we have circles and we have trainings. So please join the trainings. The shortest version. Me and I. Yeah, got it. See? We managed to get the credit. Bravo. So I will add for you.
You can submit your CV.
So now that you've captured well the first two steps, there's a third step. There's me, I, all. So, the me typically sees everything in duality. So if you are experiencing what anyone knows, what you would call an inner conflict, je me sens en conflit. You know that you're operating from the me state. Only the me state is in conflict with I. Exactly. Inner resistance. Exactly. So it's resistance to I. So me typically will resist the I. I can explain it at every level. I don't want to go at length, but I'll just take the mind. In the mind, if you're experiencing doubt, what is doubt? Doubt is conscious I here saying, let's do it. Let's flow with it. And then the me goes, oh, do you remember last time we did this? Traumatic experiences, stories. No way, let's not do it. Oh, okay, so no. Yeah, but I want to. No, yes, no, yes. That inner conflict here between the me and the I is doubt. And you can experience it at different levels. Okay, Okay, some people experience it here. Je me sens en conflit. I feel conflicted. Why? Why, I don't know. I haven't processed it here. The conflict is not here. The conflict is emotional. We were talking about emotions before. Okay, I don't want to go at length because we can go at length, and that we'll do next time we get together. So the me typically sees life through duality. And therefore, whenever have you ever tried when you go into meditation and you try to relax the mind and the me starts reminding you of everything you had to do and the monkey brain starts reacting? That's me reacting to I, because me wants to control, me wants to dominate. And the moment you go into conscious I, me loses control. And the whole raison d'être of the me is survival mode. So in order to survive, it needs to control. So me doesn't want to let go. That's what a healthy me does. Let's not get angry at these me's. The me sees everything in duality, and therefore me is in duality with I. Now, if you go to the conscious I state, I am, I love you, I love all of you, I love nature, I love the planet, I love the universe. Who do I love the most? Me, thank you. Because how can I experience life without me? I am the first one to understand that I need me in order to be I. And especially when me starts coming and fighting with I love you. Who better than I to understand why me is doing it? I was there with me when me went through traumas and stories and all the things. So, I love you. I get you. So me is typically, when do you know you're in the sharky mode? If you feel conflict within, inner conflict, and conflict with others. The moment you give the steering wheel of life to conscious I, and from a present state, you flow. You flow with yourself, you flow with me. I am in harmony. I resonate with self. Then automatically I start resonating with everyone and with everything. You know you're in a dolphin mode. Now, just very quickly, just to give you this bonus, the me is in duality, and the conscious I is presence. But we can go even beyond. When the human being experiences transcendence, and maybe some of you have had peak moments, like a moment of transcendence, you know you're going even beyond the conscious I. It's really about the all. I am a cell within this fantastic body that we can call planet Earth, within this fantastic universe. So there's moments when I'm operating with a me because I took fear. Then there's when I'm able to presently in conscious flow as the I. And then finally, I don't want to live in separation. I want to live as part of the all.
And just one remark, when we were talking before, what do I expect from politicians? This kind of education. I think you should invest some time when you want to be a leader to have this kind of education in your mind, to talk about this. So I tried to convince Moshe to make out of his UniOne move you can learn that, which I can recommend, but make a kind of university where you have to get a certificate. And it's standard that people prove that they have taken this so that they know that there is a kind of awareness and consciousness which you can combine with your professional, whatever challenges you have.
Can you say a word then about this UniOne movement? But before that, can you explain me how the I can love, for example, Putin?
Oh, I love Putin.
Okay, explain me how you succeed in doing this, because I don't. So.
Sure. Any individual that I meet is a mirror of what I'm experiencing. So when I see, I'll give you a very simple example. We can do this with any one of you. If we'll ask certain people that know you, I will find someone who's going to tell me this specific person, Laurent Ledoux. I'm picking on him, but we can do this with everyone, okay? I will meet someone who will tell me, Laurent Ledoux, the best guy on earth, the most wonderful, they'll go on and on saying positive things. I could maybe find someone who might tell me, Laurent Ledoux, impossible. But you can imagine in your own life, we might meet someone who says something very positive about you and someone who says something extremely negative about you. Which one of the two is right? Who are you? Thank you. Why?
Because everybody has his own perception about a person.
Thank you. So I have learned that when people say, if I'm going to ask someone, if I turn to one of you and I ask, what do you think about Martine? Whatever you're going to tell me about Martine, as far as I'm concerned, does not describe Martine at all. You're just describing you, what you are seeing in Martine. So when someone tells me something about someone else, all they're telling me is about something within themselves. I have within me all the abilities that Putin, that Erdogan, that Trump, that the Dalai Lama, that Laurent Ledoux, I have within myself each one of them. And so I would love to spend time. I would love an individual that is ready to. Obviously, if Putin is ready to meet with me, I would love to spend time with him. I would love to spend time with him because I believe we can get somewhere. I don't know right now that Putin is ready to meet with me. So I prefer focusing on people that are ready to meet. And with them, we come a very long way. Because every individual, once they start realizing this process, they want to evolve. So I am in full agreement with everything you said about certain individuals. All I'm saying is, I like to look, I am capable of all of that. Let's put it this way, me is definitely capable of all that stuff. So I want to figure out what I can learn from this situation. And I don't want to name any specific people, but I often do this exercise. When I sit together, I visualize that I'm sitting together with what we consider the worst person. And I start having conversations with them. And I get to a very peaceful state with them. So I start with whoever is ready to do this, and I hope we get to a point where we can get also to some people that are, still challenging with themselves and with others.
Yes.
Hello. Wow, it was a really nice talk. I'm gonna come with my question at the end, but I was really fascinated with everything you said. You, Martine, like more practical, as Laurent said, and you, Moses, like super spiritual, and it's really like something I've worked on the last 10 years because I've had like issues like when I was younger. I won't go through all the stories, no worries, but. Very, very interesting. I wanted to talk about something. So, I mean, from the time I got conscious, it was maybe, let's say 10 years ago, I'm 29. I realized that we as a society, we would face big challenges, major challenges. And I've questioned myself a lot about that, like how to solve them, right? I've probably talked about like my theory and how I would solve them like more times when I was drunk than when I was sober. But I think that like, as you said today, we talked about politics, and I think like to solve like the global challenges, we need like political frameworks that help us to solve as a common ecosystem to solve all these challenges. But like from the talk we had today, I mean, you led today more, we realized that actually it's not that simple. It's not just by replacing one politician by another that it's going to be solved, or one party by another that it's going to be solved. It's about empathy, it's about vulnerability, it's about mindset. And it all comes to, for me, education. The big issue with education is that no politician will invest in education Why? Because it's not sexy. Because they're elected for 4 years. Because like all the investment they would do in education will have like a positive impact 50 years later maybe, or 20 years later, the next generation, you know. We have to educate the kids, we have to tell them to love themselves, to develop their mindset, to challenge the agreements they have with themselves. You probably know the Ruiz brothers. And it's very, very important. But like today, when I was a kid, now I feel that the kids, it's still the same. They don't learn anything of it. So you could tell an adult, look, you have to develop yourself, you have to invest in self-development. But they never heard of that. I mean, like, I know a lot about what you were saying, but probably like many people on this planet, they don't have a clue about that. And it's not when like you're 40 and then you hear about it for the first time that you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna invest in that. No. It comes from the childhood, it comes from a mindset.
What would be your question?
Yeah, sorry, it's a very, very long intro. But this was not really my question because, like, I feel we are no, but no, okay, my question.
You should run for politics. You should be the next politician.
No, I hate the political system. So I feel that we are trapped. Okay, that's my question was, it's not to do an advertising for this political party because I don't like politics, I don't follow politics, but the political party Les Engagés is now represented as a vice president by Yvan Volkstrater, which is an entrepreneur. And we talked about leadership. He's able to manage a budget, he's able to manage people, he's able to hire people, to fire people, to like lead consciously probably. So wouldn't it be a good idea to have like more entrepreneurs leading our countries because they know how to lead, to manage money, budget, and they know how to lead people? So that's my question. Sorry for the long intro.
No, the introduction was very nice. No worries. I know this, you know, whenever you say you should have more entrepreneurs in politics, then they say, no, that's the complete wrong mindset. It's not about profit making. My personal opinion, that's bullshit, because if you are aware how to organize a huge organization, then you know already more tools than these people who didn't finish their studies or didn't, you know, but know how to talk. So for me, quality in whatever education you have and whatever profession you do, and having experience in working is already a lot. So yes, I think putting them in the right place, because deciding about somebody that he should take a job has also the responsibility of putting him in the right place. And that's another weakness of policy, that we don't have any influence to put these people in the right place. And then sometimes when somebody dares to go there, they fail because they are in the wrong place. They can't be efficient enough. And no entrepreneur will do that for a longer time, because they don't spoil their time. And I'm not talking about that you don't earn enough money. I would reduce the amount of people we have in Germany, 736 people in our Regierung, in our parliament, and reduce them half, pay them double, but you know, having them qualified, but putting them, and this is our responsibility, in the right place. That means we have to define beforehand, but nobody sits down and thinks about it. What do we want? You know, we all complain, oh, they can't do this and they can't do that and they fail. What do we want?
Martine, I would just like to say that you lost the support of Plato by what you said, but it's okay.
I did what?
You lost the support of Plato. Why? Because he would say, no, only the philosophers can become king, the entrepreneurs and so on. Yes.
Yeah, we developed a little bit since then.
Yes. Moses.
I agree about entrepreneurs. I would just add conscious entrepreneurs. An entrepreneur who's not conscious is as dangerous as an ignorant politician. But I have...
The only thing is...
May I?
Sorry, but as Martine mentioned earlier, she said there should be like a kind of school where they can learn this. It should be an obligation. So that's like a challenge for you guys, you know, to
Thank you.
use that
Thank you.
into media and use everything that we can do, because otherwise nothing's going to change. We can talk and talk and talk. And I also agree, I have 40 years of experience in managing businesses and hiring people and all what you are telling, and I agree again with Martine, all these experience that you have, you can use them, but you don't, really use them if you don't get this consciousness. And it's only over the last years that this is happening. So I'm like, come on guys, push it, you also, you can push it, you have the ability and the network to push these kind of things, that they should really follow a course. Like, hey, it's good, you are a good entrepreneur, you make good business, but hey, go and follow that. And then you can, go into something else. So I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
you're right.
So
You're totally right. We have to blame ourselves.
So, yeah. If I may,
Yes.
I accept completely the challenge. I am ready. I am ready 100%. And the message that I have for you and for every single one of us here, every single one of us can make the difference. And together we will make this happen. So I just want to say to you, because you said something like, oh, I hate politics, oh, I hate politicians. Well, you said it very clearly. You've gone through a journey. You've got to a point where at least you consider yourself relatively conscious. Who should go into politics? Who should be an entrepreneur today, if not you? So I'm just here to remind you that it's not about just pointing fingers. It's about recognizing what each one of us can make as a difference, and together, sure, it will be about education. It will be about educating each other, and together, as consciously and emotional educated people, it will all change. I have no doubt about it.
A last question, maybe.
Good evening. Thank you for this very interesting conference. But I'm reading here the introduction here, protecting democratic values. I'm very concerned as a youth regarding what's happening right now in the world, and I wanted to respond to what you just said, ma'am, regarding Russia and regarding religion. I just come back from Japan 2 weeks ago, and I had the chance to travel a lot during many months. And I think in Europe what we do not understand is that right now we don't have any collective identity anymore. Because we just get rid of religion, common principles, we are all talking about what can I do in my life? How can I be better? Self-confidence. I think it's great for economy, for business. However, people abroad don't have the same vision. And despite the fact that many Russians really hate Vladimir Putin, they would prefer every time to have authoritarianism in their country rather to be broken by Europe, by America, because their perception is way different than our perception of society right now. Because this is a shock of civilization. I think, as Samuel Dixon said, since 9/11, the world is not the same. It's not only about European Union, about law and regulation. People want new kind of elections that really make a difference. I'm talking about breaking the rule of law that's currently with Ursula von der Leyen. All my friends, they were like voting every time left, and now suddenly they think that extreme right is very sexy in their way just to approach my generation. And the answer right now is only rule of law, European Union, and only Brussels will take care of you. And I think it's not enough. Intelligence is important, but also we need inspiration here. We need real leaders. When you're talking, for example, people are listening to you because you are inspiring. If we don't have charismatic leaders in our union, we won't prevail. For sure, our society will disappear. I'm definitely sure about it. And they believe the same. When you just take a flight, you go to Japan, I was so slammed, they think that, oh, it's going to Europe. I was like, well, I'm okay. Are you sure? Are you sure? So my question to all of you is, with all the education, the intelligence, your experience, your background, how can you inspire leaders and us to make the right decisions and not going through, as we say in French, franchir le Rubicon, and go to the extreme vision of our society? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is not so easy to answer, because on one hand, if I understand right, what you said is there has to be leadership, charismatic leadership, and I totally agree. If you think I was talking about everybody is the same, no, you have to find the abilities, but in these abilities there has to be somebody who is humble, who is respectful with others. And because the job is so big, what we are offering, lead a country, we need somebody where we are sure that at least he has or she has a training in having that. These kind of values are not trained at all. People go to yoga classes, people go to, all kinds of, they want to be conscious, they want to be in peace with themselves. But then to close the bridge to leadership, that's the link I'm missing in a lot of people who are charismatic and then suddenly turn against those they are representing. So we have to protect ourselves. I think religion gave, as Moshe said, for a long time, it gave a framework, and it still can give a framework. I'm not religious, but I totally respect people who are religious, and I respect their frame they have around them. If they are aware that there is a freedom of the other one, and they shouldn't, conflict with the freedom of the other people. And the other thing, how are we seen? Europe is right now in not a good condition. No doubt about that. And I agree, when I travel, and I was in Asia and I work in China, and the respect they lost from us, is amazing. And it's time that we gain that again. But my trust in the values we developed in Europe the last, it's now almost 80 years since World War II, is big. We have so many talent. We have so many amazing people, young people, older people. We have very successful, we have everything. We have philosophers. We just have to be aware and not give up that the values we developed after World War II were the right values. They were not the wrong values. Not only because we are talking now about sending weapons to Ukraine and only talking about we have to, and forgetting that kills people, we shouldn't forget our values and our strength. The national, how do you say national awareness? Yeah, nationalism, which is coming right now with these war talks. I strongly believe that we hold against it as a society without borders in Europe, but also to other countries. Because when you travel, you find out in Japan, in Saudi Arabia, in the Emirates, you find so many people in China. And we have a cooperation with Chinese government company. So we see those young people, we train them. And they believe very much in the freedom we have. And they go back and they will not give up. So hopefully the next generation of leaders will take that, and hopefully she is not able to react like Putin does. But the hope is not enough. That's what I'm saying. We have to protect us. Because I'm a lawyer, maybe, I think I don't want to be dependent on hope. That's more his thing. I want to make sure that we are protected, and we can fire them in time. So, yes, now for the time being, we have to hope. But we create the university, and then we train people, and they get a certification, and they are not allowed to represent Europe without the certification. That's what I try to convince him. You see?
You've got the last word, Moses.
A certification of a hope, legally, let's make sure. Wonderful. There's a lot that I would like to say about what you just said, but I'll say it in the the shortest version. Identity is a basic need of the human being. The only difference is we are used to identities that tend to divide us. That's the identity perceived from the me. The me identifies with, because I'm part of this family, because I'm part of this gender, because I'm part of this party, because I'm part of this nationality, because I'm part of this race, then there is a division with the others. So typically identity as we know it has been always from the me perspective and dividing us, separating us. There is a way of being in an identity, no matter if it's nationality, no matter if it's religion, no matter if it's a family, from a conscious I state. And from a conscious I am not attached to the identity, and definitely this identity does not separate me from the others. So there is a way of being grateful to identity, grateful to the past, grateful to all those that contributed into who I am today, but that does not mean that when I meet the other, the identity is separating us. On the contrary, it enriches us. I've got something to share with them, they've got something to share, and these identities create a greater identity, which is the oneness that we're all part of. Each one of us unique in our way, and while we recognize each other's uniqueness, we are UniOne.
And that's the meaning of the word UniOne. Thank you. I know, Julien, you want us to stop now. And for those who still have questions, we can have a discussion at the bar, right?
Thank you so much, Laurent Ledoux, for organizing this really profoundly nourishing conversation. And Martine, Moses, a bow of gratitude to you for all the wisdom that you shared.
Thank you. I just would like to add that this is the first part of a series of 3 events that we will organize around leadership. So the next one will be on the 30th of May with Professor Thierry Ripoll. He's a psychologist and a philosopher. And he's going to help us to understand what are the issues in terms of leadership in order to help us to meet the climate challenge. Why we are failing so far to do so. And the last one will be in June. We will discuss leadership from the Vedic point of view, so the Hindu philosophy.